I was covering the reception desk during lunch break at Meridian Tech Solutions when a middle-aged woman walked in looking distressed, trying to communicate with our security guard who clearly didn't understand what she needed. I watched her gesture frantically, point at her ears, shake her head. She was deaf. Without thinking, I walked over and signed, "Hello. I can help you. What do you need?" The relief on her face was instant. What I didn't know was that Marcus Lawson, the CEO of our entire company, was standing in the hallway behind me, watching the entire interaction. And that this 60-second moment of basic human decency was about to change my entire life. Let me back up and explain how I got here, a 28-year-old junior marketing coordinator covering reception desk because we were short-staffed, knowing sign language most people don't learn, working at a tech company where I'd been overlooked for 3 years. My name is Riley Morrison. I grew up in Cedarbrook, a small suburb outside of Seattle. My younger brother, Cameron, was born deaf. Profoundly deaf, no hearing aids would help him. From the moment he was diagnosed at 18 months old, our entire family learned American Sign Language. It wasn't optional. It wasn't a hobby. It was how we communicated with Cameron, how we included him, how we made sure he never felt isolated or different in his own family. By the time I was 7, I was fluent in ASL. By the time I was 12, I was interpreting for Cameron at parent-teacher conferences because my parents worked long hours. Cameron was brilliant. Funny, creative, stubborn as hell. He taught me that disability doesn't mean inability. That different doesn't mean less. That communication is about connection, not just words. He died when I was 19. A car accident. The other driver ran a red light, hit Cameron's car from the side. He died instantly. I didn't stop signing after he died. If anything, I signed more. It felt like keeping him alive somehow. Like maintaining a connection to him that no one could take away. I volunteered at the Deaf Community Center in Seattle throughout college. I interpreted at community events. I taught basic ASL classes to hearing parents of deaf children. It became part of who I was, not just a skill, but a piece of my identity tied to the brother I'd lost and the community that had embraced both of us. When I graduated from University of Washington with a degree in marketing, I applied to dozens of companies. Meridian Tech Solutions was one of them. They were a mid-sized tech company in downtown Seattle, about 400 employees, specializing in accessibility software for businesses. The irony wasn't lost on me. A company focused on accessibility that never asked if I had any relevant skills beyond my resume. I was hired as a junior marketing coordinator 3 years ago. Entry-level position, decent pay, room for growth. Or so they said. The reality was different. I wrote blog posts that my manager, Derek Paulson, took credit for. I developed social media campaigns that the senior team presented as their own ideas. I pitched an entire accessibility awareness initiative that would highlight how our software helped disabled users. It was shot down as too niche by Derek, then quietly implemented 6 months later with his name on it. I stayed because I needed the job. Because the market was competitive. Because I kept telling myself that if I just worked harder, proved myself more, eventually I'd get recognized. 3 years. 3 performance reviews where I was told I was doing great, but somehow never great enough for a promotion. 3 times watching less qualified colleagues, usually men who went to happy hour with Derek, get promoted over me. I wasn't bitter. I was tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of watching my work get stolen. Tired of being the person everyone relied on but no one valued. Which brings me back to that Tuesday afternoon, covering the reception desk because our receptionist Valerie had a doctor's appointment and I was the only person available, even though I had a campaign deadline. The woman who walked in was named Susan Chen, I learned later. She was 62, visiting Seattle from Portland, and she had an appointment with someone in our sales department to discuss our software for her company. But when she arrived, the security guard, Tom, didn't understand her. She was trying to explain she had an appointment, trying to show him something on her phone, and he just kept saying louder, "I can't understand you, ma'am. Do you speak English?" As if volume would somehow help a deaf person hear. I felt that familiar anger rise up, the same anger I'd felt 1,000 times when people treated Cameron like he was stupid just because he couldn't hear. The same anger when people would talk to me instead of him, would shout at him, would treat deafness like a cognitive disability instead of just a different way of experiencing the world. I walked over. Tom looked relieved. Riley, thank God. Can you deal with this? I don't know what she wants. I turned to Susan and signed, hello. I'm Riley. I can help you. What do you need? Her face transformed. The frustration melted into relief, then gratitude, then something that looked like she might cry. She signed back, thank you. Thank you so much. I have an appointment at 2 p.m. with Jennifer Walsh in sales. But security won't let me up and I've been trying to explain for 10 minutes. Of course. Let me call Jennifer for you. Would you like to sit while you wait? Can I get you water or coffee? Water would be wonderful. Thank you. I got her settled in the lobby with water, called Jennifer's extension, explained the situation. Jennifer came down 5 minutes later, apologizing profusely. Susan was gracious about it. Before she left with Jennifer, Susan signed to me, you have no idea how much this meant to me. Most places, people just stare at me like I'm broken. You treated me like a person. Thank you. I signed back, my brother was deaf. I understand. I hope your meeting goes well. She smiled, nodded, and left with Jennifer. I went back to the reception desk, answered a few calls, and completely forgot about the interaction. It was just a normal moment in a normal day. I'd helped someone who needed help. That's what you do. Except Marcus Lawson, CEO of Meridian Tech Solutions, had been in the building. He'd been walking from a meeting to his office, had seen the entire interaction from the hallway, and apparently, it had made an impression. I didn't know this until 3 hours later. I was back at my desk, trying to finish a blog post about enterprise software integration, when I got an email from an address I didn't recognize, lawson@meridiantech.com. Subject, meeting request, tomorrow 10 a.m. Riley. Please come to my office tomorrow at 10 a.m. My assistant will send calendar details. Marcus Lawson, CEO, Meridian Tech Solutions. I read it 3 times. Then I checked to make sure it wasn't a phishing email. Then I panicked. The CEO wanted to meet with me? Why? Had I done something wrong? Was I being fired? Had someone complained about something? I spent the rest of the day spiraling. I asked my coworker Jenna if she knew anything. She didn't. I considered asking Derek, my manager, but decided against it. He'd probably find a way to make it about him or take credit for whatever this was. That night, I barely slept. I went through every possible scenario. Maybe they were downsizing and I was being let go. Maybe someone had complained about my work. Maybe this was about me covering reception and somehow Tom had reported that I'd overstepped. The next morning, I dressed carefully. Professional but not trying too hard. I showed up to the executive floor at 9:55 a.m., announced myself to Marcus Lawson's assistant, a poised woman in her 50s named Patricia. He's expecting you. Go right in. I knocked, heard, come in, and opened the door. Marcus Lawson's office was exactly what you'd expect from a tech CEO. Modern, minimalist, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Seattle, expensive but understated furniture. He was sitting at his desk, mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, sharp suit, and an expression I couldn't quite read. Riley Morrison. Please, sit. I sat, hands clasped in my lap to stop them from shaking. Do you know why you're here? He asked. No, sir. Your email didn't say. I was here yesterday afternoon for a meeting. I saw you at the reception desk helping a woman who was deaf. You communicated with her in sign language. Oh. Oh God. Was I in trouble for that? Had I violated some protocol? Yes, sir. She was having trouble communicating with security, and I know ASL, so I helped her. Where did you learn ASL? My brother was deaf. I grew up signing. He nodded slowly, like this confirmed something. And it didn't occur to you to mention this skill when you were hired here? At a company whose entire mission is accessibility? I blinked. It wasn't on the job description. The position didn't require it. No, it didn't. But you have to understand how this looks from my perspective. I run a company that builds accessibility software. We have an entire division focused on tools for the deaf and hard of hearing community. And I just discovered by accident that one of my employees, a junior marketing coordinator, is fluent in ASL and has been for 20 years, and no one in leadership knew about it. I'm sorry, I didn't think it was relevant. It's incredibly relevant. Do you know how many deaf clients we work with? How many deaf employees we have? 3. I think. I've seen 3 people signing in the cafeteria. 7. We have 7 deaf employees. And countless deaf clients. And not one person in our customer-facing departments knows sign language except for our dedicated accessibility team. Which means when someone like Susan Chen walks into our building, she gets treated the way you saw yesterday, like an inconvenience instead of a valued potential client. I understand. I'm sorry I didn't. He held up a hand. Riley, you're not in trouble. I'm not angry. I'm frustrated with our systems, not with you. But I need to understand something. You've been here 3 years. You have this skill that's directly relevant to our mission. Why didn't you ever bring it up? Why didn't you ever suggest we needed better communication protocols for deaf visitors? Why didn't you ever apply for a position in our accessibility division? I sat there, and all the frustration of 3 years bubbled up. Because no one ever asked. Because I've spent 3 years pitching ideas that get shot down or stolen. Because I'm a junior coordinator whose manager barely listens to me. Because I've learned that in this company, if you're not already at a certain level, your ideas don't matter. He leaned back in his chair, studying me. That's a pretty damning assessment. You asked. I did. He was quiet for a moment. Tell me about your role here. What do you actually do? So I told him. I told him about the blog posts, the campaigns, the accessibility initiative I'd pitched that Derek had stolen. I told him about being passed over for promotions. I told him about feeling invisible despite doing good work. I probably shouldn't have been so honest. But he'd asked, and I was tired of pretending everything was fine. The description included everything I'd ever wanted to do: meaningful work, leadership, actual impact. I got back to my desk. Jenna immediately rolled her chair over. What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. I think I just got offered my dream job. What? So I told her. About Susan, about Marcus watching, about the meeting, about the offer. Oh my God, Riley. Oh my God, you have to take it. It feels too good to be true. It's not. It's literally just someone finally recognizing what you're worth. Take the job. I looked at the folder. Then at my computer screen where a half-finished blog post sat, the kind of meaningless content I'd been churning out for 3 years. I opened my email and replied to Marcus Lawson, I accept. Thank you for this opportunity. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. His reply came 30 seconds later, welcome to the team. Patricia will handle the transition details. Looking forward to working with you. That's when I heard Derek's voice behind me. Riley? Can you come to my office? I turned. Derek was standing there, looking confused and slightly annoyed. I just got a very weird email from HR saying you're being transferred to a different department effective next week. What's going on? I stood up, grabbed the folder, and smiled. I'm taking a new position. Director of Accessibility Communications. I'll be working directly with the VP of Accessibility. His face went through several emotions: confusion, disbelief, and then something that looked like anger. You're being promoted? To director level? How did that happen? The CEO offered it to me. The CEO? Why would the CEO even know who you are? Because I have skills that are valuable to this company. Skills I've tried to use for 3 years while working for you, but you never listened. I've listened. You took credit for my work. You shot down every idea I brought you. You passed me over for promotions 3 times. But that's all done now. I start my new role next week. HR will handle my transition. I walked away, leaving Derek standing there looking like I'd slapped him. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt seen. All because I'd helped a deaf woman find her way to a meeting. All because Marcus Lawson had been watching. All because I'd decided, for just one moment, to be exactly who I was instead of making myself smaller to fit into a role that never valued me. My name is Riley Morrison. I'm 28 years old. And yesterday, 60 seconds of basic human decency changed my entire life. Because sometimes, the people who need to see you aren't the ones you're trying to impress. Sometimes, they're just watching from the hallway, waiting for someone to show them who you really are. And sometimes, all it takes is helping one person who needs it to finally get the life you deserve. The transition happened fast. By the end of that week, I'd moved from my cramped cubicle in the marketing department to a real office on the 6th floor, the accessibility division floor. Glass walls, a door that closed, a window overlooking Elliott Bay. It felt surreal. My new boss, Claire Rodriguez, VP of Accessibility, was a woman in her early 50s with sharp eyes and a warm smile. She was also hard of hearing and wore hearing aids in both ears. Our first meeting, she signed as she spoke, a habit I learned she developed to make deaf employees and clients feel more comfortable. "Marcus sent me your background," she said. "I've been fighting for this position for 2 years. Every time I proposed it, the executive team said it wasn't in the budget or that we could handle communications internally. Then Marcus sees you help one person and suddenly the position not only exists but is fully funded with a team and resources. That's CEO privilege for you. I'm sorry if this felt like it came out of nowhere." She waved a hand. "Don't apologize. I'm thrilled you're here. I'm just pointing out that sometimes it takes the right person seeing the right thing at the right moment to make change happen. You were that catalyst. Now let's make sure we don't waste it." Over the next month, Claire and I built something neither of us had been able to build before. We developed a comprehensive accessibility communication strategy that covered everything from how visitors were greeted to how our marketing materials represented disability. I discovered that Meridian Tech had 7 deaf employees, as Marcus had said, but also 12 employees with other disabilities, 3 wheelchair users, 2 with visual impairments, 4 with chronic illnesses, and 3 with cognitive differences. And yet, none of our internal or external communications reflected that diversity. "We sell accessibility software," I said during one of our strategy sessions. "But we're not showing that we actually live those values. Our website has one stock photo of a person in a wheelchair. Our testimonials are all from hearing, non-disabled clients. Our marketing materials don't include captions or transcripts half the time." Claire nodded. "I've been saying this for years. Now you have the authority and budget to fix it. So fix it." I assembled a team. First hire, Marcus Chen, a deaf graphic designer who'd been working in our product development division but wanted to move into communications. Second hire, Stephanie Williams, a marketing specialist who used a wheelchair and had been freelancing because she couldn't find a company that would accommodate her needs. Third hire, David Park, a hearing interpreter and ASL specialist who'd been teaching at a community college but wanted corporate experience. Together, we rebuilt everything. We created a visitor protocol that trained all security and reception staff in basic disability etiquette and provided communication cards in multiple formats. We redesigned our website to be fully accessible, not just technically compliant, but actually usable by people with various disabilities. We developed marketing campaigns featuring our actual employees and real clients with disabilities. And we launched an internal training program called Accessibility First that was mandatory for all employees, including executives. The training covered disability etiquette, basic sign language, accessible design principles, and why this mattered for a company whose mission was accessibility. Derek, my former manager, sat in the back of the first training session with his arms crossed, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. I ignored him and focused on the people who were actually engaged, which was most of the room. 3 months into my new role, I got an email from Susan Chen, the woman I'd helped at reception. She'd become a client, purchasing our software for her entire company in Portland, and she'd specifically requested to work with me on the implementation communications. We met over video call, both of us signing. "I wanted to thank you again," she signed. "Not just for helping me that day, but for what you've built since then. I've been following Meridian Tech's changes. The new website, the campaigns, the training. You're doing something important. I'm just trying to make sure what happened to you doesn't happen to anyone else. It's more than that. You're changing how people think about disability. How companies think about accessibility. That ripples out beyond just Meridian Tech." After the call, I sat in my office and thought about Cameron. About how many times he'd walked into places where people treated him like he was less than. How many times he'd been ignored, talked over, or dismissed. How many times I'd watched him handle it with more grace than anyone should have to. I couldn't change what had happened to him. But I could change what happened to people like Susan. And that felt like honoring his memory in a way that mattered. 6 months into the role, Marcus called me into his office again. "I'm presenting at the National Accessibility Conference in Chicago next month," he said. "I want you to co-present with me. We'll be talking about how Meridian Tech is integrating accessibility into every aspect of our business, not just our products. You'll present the communications side." "Me? Present at a national conference? You've built something worth presenting. And I want the industry to see that accessibility leadership can come from anywhere, even from a junior coordinator who gets overlooked for 3 years." The conference was in a massive convention center in downtown Chicago. Thousands of attendees. Major tech companies, disability advocates, accessibility consultants, government representatives. I was terrified. Marcus and I presented to a packed room of about 300 people. He talked about the business case for accessibility. I talked about the human case, about Cameron, about Susan, about why representation and communication mattered just as much as technical compliance. Halfway through my presentation, I switched to signing as I spoke, something I hadn't planned, but felt right in the moment. I talked about how my brother had taught me that accessibility isn't about fixing people, it's about fixing systems. That inclusion isn't a favor, it's a baseline. The room was silent when I finished. Then someone in the front row stood up and started applauding. Then another person. Then the entire room was on their feet. I looked at Marcus. He was grinning. After the presentation, I was swarmed by people. Disability advocates who wanted to collaborate. Other companies asking how we'd implemented our programs. Deaf attendees thanking me for signing during the presentation. One woman, who introduced herself as the accessibility director for a Fortune 500 company, handed me her card and said, "If you ever want to leave Meridian Tech, call me." That night, Marcus took the team out to dinner, me, Claire, and the 3 people I'd hired. 6 months ago, Riley was covering a reception desk because we were short-staffed, Marcus said, raising his glass. Today, she presented at a national conference and got a standing ovation. That's not luck. That's what happens when someone finally gets the opportunity they deserved all along. "Here's what I don't understand," Stephanie said. Riley was at Meridian Tech for 3 years before this. How did no one figure out she had these skills? How did no one ask? Marcus looked at me. That's a question we should all be asking. How many other Riley Morrisons do we have in our company? People with incredible skills and insights who are being overlooked because they don't fit someone's narrow idea of what talent looks like. "It's not just Meridian Tech," Claire said. "It's everywhere. We promote people who look like leaders instead of people who are leaders. We value confidence over competence. We listen to the loudest voice instead of the most informed one." "So how do we fix it?" David asked. "We start by actually looking," I said. By asking people what they're capable of instead of assuming we already know. By creating space for people to show skills that aren't on their job description. By recognizing that the person answering phones might be the most qualified person to lead your accessibility initiative. Marcus nodded. Which is why I'm implementing a new program company-wide. Every employee will have an annual skills and interests conversation with HR. Not a performance review, a discovery conversation. What do you know that we don't know you know? What do you want to do that you're not doing? What's being wasted because we're not asking? The Riley Morrison Initiative, Claire said, smiling. Actually, I was thinking we'd call it the Cameron Morrison Initiative, Marcus said, looking at me. If that's okay with you. After your brother. Because this is about seeing people fully, not just the parts that are convenient for us. I couldn't speak for a moment. I just nodded. 3 months after the conference, something unexpected happened. Derek resigned. I heard through Jenna that he'd been passed over for a VP position and decided to leave rather than continue in his current role. His departure meant the marketing department needed a new director. Marcus called me into his office, a meeting that no longer made me nervous. I want to offer you Derek's position, he said. Director of Marketing, overseeing the entire marketing department. You'd still maintain your accessibility communications work, but you'd expand it across all marketing initiatives. Bigger team, bigger budget, bigger impact. That's Derek's job. The job I was never good enough for when he was my manager. That's the job you were always good enough for. Derek just couldn't see it. Or wouldn't see it. Either way, he's gone and you're here and you're the most qualified person I have. I thought about it for exactly 5 seconds. Yes. That was fast. I spent 3 years waiting for opportunities that never came. I'm not going to hesitate when someone actually offers me one. My first act as director of marketing was to promote Jenna to senior marketing coordinator, the role I should have been promoted 2 years ago. My second act was to implement the skills discovery program Marcus had proposed, starting with my own department. Turns out we had 3 people in marketing who had valuable skills no one knew about. One guy who did data visualization as a hobby and could transform our analytics reporting. One woman who was fluent in Mandarin and could help us expand into Chinese markets. One person who had worked in accessibility consulting before switching to marketing and had insights we'd been missing. All of them had been there for years. No one had ever asked what else they could do. Within a year of taking Derek's position, our marketing department had transformed. We won awards for our accessibility-focused campaigns. Our employee satisfaction scores doubled. Our client retention went up 30%. And we became the go-to case study for how companies could integrate accessibility into their brand identity. But the moment that mattered most to me happened on a random Tuesday afternoon. I was walking through the lobby when I saw a young man at the reception desk, looking confused and frustrated. Our new receptionist, one we trained in the new protocols, was trying to help, but struggling. The young man was deaf. I could tell by the way he was gesturing, the way he was pointing at his ears. I walked over and signed, "Hi, I'm Riley. Can I help you?" His face lit up exactly the way Susan's had. "Thank you. I have a job interview. I'm so nervous and then I got here and no one understood me and I thought maybe this was a mistake." "It's not a mistake. Who are you interviewing with?" "The product development team. Junior developer position." "Perfect. Let me call them." "While we wait, can I tell you something?" "Of course. A year and a half ago, I helped someone at this exact desk who was deaf and couldn't communicate with security. The CEO saw it and it changed my life. I went from being a junior coordinator to director of marketing. So if you're nervous about this interview, don't be. This company values people who've been overlooked other places. You're going to do great." He smiled, signs of relief and hope crossing his face. "Really? Really? Also, we have 7 deaf employees now. If you get this job, you won't be alone." 7? That's amazing. The product development manager came down 10 minutes later. Before the young man left with her, he turned back and signed, "Thank you. You have no idea how much this meant." "I do, actually. Good luck." I watched him go, and I thought about Cameron again. About how he'd never gotten to experience a workplace that saw him first, disability second. About how he'd never gotten to be in a space where signing was normal and accommodations were standard and being deaf was just one part of who he was. I couldn't give him that. But I could build it for people like him. That evening, I stayed late in my office, looking out at Elliott Bay as the sun set. Marcus knocked on my open door. "Working late?" "Just thinking." About how much has changed in 18 months. About how one moment of helping someone became all of this. He leaned against the doorframe. "You know what I think? I think you were always going to end up here. Maybe not this exact position, maybe not this exact company. But somewhere, doing work that mattered, leading people, making a difference. Because that's who you are. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time to notice it. I was invisible for 3 years. To Derek. To a system that wasn't looking for you. But you were never actually invisible, Riley. You were just waiting for someone to actually see you. And once someone did, you showed everyone exactly what they'd been missing." After he left, I pulled up a photo on my phone. Cameron and me, age 16 and 14, at a deaf community picnic. Both of us signing something to someone off camera, both of us laughing. I'd carried that photo through college, through job searches, through 3 years of being overlooked at Meridian Tech. I signed to the photo, knowing Cameron couldn't see it but needing to say it anyway. I did it. I built something that matters. I made space for people like you. I hope you're proud. My phone buzzed. Email from Marcus. Subject: Cameron Morrison Initiative, Official Launch. I opened it. He'd written a company-wide announcement about the new Skills Discovery Program, explaining its purpose and naming it after Cameron. The email included a photo of Cameron, one I'd shared with Marcus months ago, and a quote from me about seeing people's full potential. At the bottom, "This program exists because Riley Morrison helped a deaf visitor find her way to a meeting. Because I happened to see it. Because we realized we'd been overlooking not just Riley, but countless employees whose skills and experiences we never asked about. Cameron Morrison never got to work at a company that saw him fully. This initiative ensures that people like him, people with abilities and insights we're not expecting, get the opportunities they deserve." I read it 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Then I composed a response. Company-wide, reply all. Cameron would have loved this. Thank you for honoring his memory by building a workplace where people like him, people like all of us, get to show up as our whole selves. That's what accessibility really means. Not just ramps and screen readers and sign language, but seeing people. Really seeing them. And giving them the space to show you who they are. 18 months ago, I was invisible. Today, I lead a team that's changing how this company communicates with the world. That didn't happen because I suddenly got better at my job. It happened because someone finally looked at me and saw what was always there. How many other people are we not seeing? How many other Cameron Morrisons are waiting for someone to ask them what they're capable of? Let's find out. Riley Morrison, Director of Marketing. I hit send and closed my laptop. My name is Riley Morrison. I'm 29 years old. 18 months ago, I helped a deaf woman find her way to a meeting, not knowing the CEO was watching. That 60-second interaction changed everything. Not because helping someone was extraordinary, but because someone finally saw that the junior coordinator answering phones had been the director of marketing all along. I was never invisible. I was just working for people who couldn't see. And the moment someone actually looked, really looked, everything changed. Now I spend every day making sure other people get seen too. Making sure the person at the reception desk gets asked what else they can do. Making sure that junior, in someone's title doesn't limit what they're capable of. Making sure the next Cameron Morrison walks into a workplace that's ready to see all of him. Because that's what I learned from my brother, from Susan Chin, from Marcus Lawson seeing me in a hallway. We're all capable of more than people assume. We're all worth more than our current titles suggest. We're all waiting for someone to look past what they expect and see what's actually there. Sometimes all it takes is 60 seconds of human decency. Sometimes all it takes is one person watching from a hallway. Sometimes all it takes is finally being given the chance to show the world who you've been all along. And sometimes, helping one person who needs it doesn't just change their day. It changes your entire life.